All right, everybody, this will be a warning to all politicians. I'm running for president 2024. This will be part 34, I believe. Maybe 35. I'll have to look before I post it. Anyway, Arts Party 2024. Rebuilding America, urban renewal, rebuilding the futures of impoverished Americans. So questions are, how much do we spend to house and care for convicts, welfare for their children while they're in prison, how much for unwed mothers, how much to police areas, how much to help victims, all this type of stuff. We have these neighborhoods that are sitting in decay. So a lot of these neighborhoods, I'm assuming the state or the city owns, because it's like abandoned property and all this and everything. And then others, I'm assuming that, the owners of the property or whatever, they're not going to put the money in to rebuild or anything like that. They're waiting for maybe a developer to come in and snatch everything up or something. But we can't wait anymore. So if the state or the city owns it, no problem. If we have to use eminent domain, make these owners offers, we'll do that. Now, the thing with building houses and stuff, usually it's a developer. They borrow money, and then the money they borrow, they got to pay interest on. So not only do you have the labor and then the cost of the materials, they figure in what they have to pay back to the banks and stuff and interest and all that kind of junk. And so that is figured in to the cost of a house. In this case, it won't be, because it'll be federal money. It'll be a joint federal and state venture in every city we do it in. There'll be certain requirements, no violent criminals, rapists, murderers, things like that, serious criminal histories. States and cities will have to fine-tune what their criteria is going to be, and so all those fine details have to be worked out. So if you figure in materials and labor, and then if you got to pay for the land, eminent domain, you're not going to have these people claim outrageous property values and stuff. You're going to give them a fair price for their property. And I'm going to show how all this, it seems like it's going to be a great big burden for the taxpayer and there's no return on it, but I'm going to show you how there is a return on it. Because like I said, money is like a like your body's circulatory system or an electrical circuit and all this. Everything's always constantly moving. And this is way better than just throwing welfare and paying for public housing where people have no vested interest in the neighborhood and all this kind of stuff and everything. So we'll go over the deal here first, kind of a little bit. So it'll be like a 10-year deal. We'll figure out the numbers exactly, but the person's going to have get a job. And we'll make the payment like $400 or $500 a month or whatever it is for 10 years. During that 10 years, if you want to move, whatever, say you've lived there 6 years, you figure out what you paid for 6 years. The state buys it back from you for that amount. Maybe you add in, 5% or something. But you're not gonna be able to take these homes and then immediately sell them and walk with the money. Once you paid for 10 years, it's going to be a hell of a deal, because the home you're getting, whatever the value will be then, and it's gonna be of your best interest to keep the neighborhood and the home in good shape, because in 10 years you want to sell it for $200,000 or $300,000, whatever the market is. You're free to do so. But during that 10 years, unless divorce or death, and we'll have to work out all those kinds of details and stuff and on how that stuff works, or domestic violence or something like that, who gets booted and those types of things. But so anyway, and there's no borrowing on the house. It'll be in account. You cannot get equity or anything like this, borrow against the house or anything like that until after the 10 years. And so, and you take a pledge No drugs, no gangs, no criminal activity, no illegal guns, stuff like that. Just basic stuff. And we'll have to work out, if there's some kind of infraction, is it enough to make you lose this deal? And if you do lose the deal, then same thing as if you sell it back to the state and move somewhere else. They pay you what you've paid into it, and then they put another family in there. They don't put it on the open market for the market value. All right, and it goes like that until somebody pays it off, the 10-year deal. So you look at what we spend on all these things and how we try to incentivize police, and we don't have enough to pay police. So this will also not only be open to poor people of the community, it'll also be open to people who work for the city in lieu of pensions, in lieu of higher salaries and stuff that they can't come up with. So it's going to be a community. You're going to have teachers, firemen, police, sanitation workers, all working there. So, and then while it's being built, and you're going to redo the streets, and this is my idea, like the house will be like a 2,000 square foot house and a garage, your standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath. There's not going to be any big 4-bedroom or 5-bedroom mansion type things built. It'll be a nice modern home, everything modern, well insulated to energy efficient standards. And if you're in a city and you're going to get an apartment, home or condo, if you want to look at it that way, nice big glass building, not these brick monstrosities with iron bars and all that kind of crap on them. And you're going to own those too. Same deal, 10-year type deal, whatever, and then you want to sell it and move and pocket the money, you're free to do so. And people are saying, well, it's an awful lot of money building homes for people and just pretty much giving them to them on these sweetheart deals. Well, you got to look at, you're going to have you policemen and firemen and all that, incentives for that, for them to move to that city. You're going to have, people are going to be working, so a lot of these people are working to pay for these homes. They might make enough to actually pay state tax or something, income tax. So you're going to get some of it back there, plus people who are working and have a vested interest in the neighborhood. They're also going to be spending money into the economy. And then while you're building all this, it's federal money. You can use it for jobs training because it's going to take a lot of construction workers. So a lot of these neighborhoods, there's unemployment and stuff. You can have if you think back to Roosevelt and all the things he did, this is kind of the same philosophy type thing. So you're going to be training a lot of people right there in those communities. They're going to be, you put them on the list too for getting one of these houses. They're going to work. They're going to learn a skill. They're going to be in line for one of these houses. And they're going to be paying, taxes on their wages too if they're making enough. And they're going to get a skill that after the whole thing's done, maybe they go to the next city and work that job and everything like that, and just do these sites around the country. They'll still have a home in whichever the first one they work on or whatever to go back to, and then they're going to be spending money into the economy also. So it circulates back around. Businesses will make more, even if the people working aren't making enough to pay state taxes and stuff. They're going to spend money into the economy. The businesses and stuff in that area will make enough to where they have to, they pay taxes on their incomes and stuff. So the money will circulate back in, and you're gonna break this circle of poverty. You're not just gonna be throwing money. Now here's the deal. Some people would say, well, who gets to move in first? Some people would say, well, you got to move in, single parents or single mothers with children and stuff. Not necessarily, because here's the deal. You move a woman in there with a couple kids, and I'm not saying you can't. I'm saying, but you're also going to make some of these homes available to single men. Some would say, take care of everybody else first. No, you got to have a mix. Because guess what? Now that single man, he's a catch. He's got a job and he's got a house. All right? So maybe some of these welfare mothers and stuff like this that are looking for a man, instead of the usual prospects of some guy, he's got a lot of talk and nothing to back it up. Now, buddy, now you got something to back it up. You got a job and you got a house and you got a future, and in 10 years you can sell that house, move anywhere you want to go, invest the money, do whatever you want to do. So for people who say, you know, this ain't fair and all this to other people who work and everything, hey, we got to do something. We got to break the circle of poverty. You know, and this won't be just for the cities, you know, instead of, you know, some of this money will go, you know, you got impoverished counties down in the south and stuff. There's a lot of dilapidated, rundown homes. Hey, here you go, county such and such, and this is what we expect done, and this is how you're going to do it, and you're going to rebuild these communities. Now, like I said, there'll be rules and stipulations, and we'll have to knock all those types of things out, and you know, and work out, you know, it's going to be low cost, you know, who qualifies and who can't qualify, and all those types of things will have to be knocked out. But you will rebuild our communities. You will give people a vested interest in their future and the future of the community, because if they let the community go to shit, guess what? They're not going to be able to sell that property. They're not going to make that big money. So they have a vested interest. You understand? And even if they sell and they move somewhere else, they're going to buy another house somewhere. They're going to spend that money into the economy. It circulates back around. The government will get its taxes. You know, other people's incomes will go up because that money will come back. It's a closed system. You have to understand that. It's like, you know, if like I said, if you go to these extremes to tax all the rich and everything, all this and everything, well, then it's just going to cost you in the end. It's like tariffs. Everyone's like, oh, the tariffs, and all this. You know, that it costs you in the end. You know, because the Chinese are going to, you know, if they're selling steel here, well, you put a tariff on it. Who ends up paying the tariff in the end? You do, to a certain extent. You know, so it's like a close costs get passed down. Taxes, they cut it here, they raise it here, stuff like that. It's a closed system. And like I said before, if you think of the human body and then you think of the federal government and the, you know, the state government or whatever, and industry, and what was the other one I said? Oh hell, I can't. But like 4 valves of a heart or whatever. If all the money is flowing in to that heart, and one of those valves, the feds or whoever, is sucking it all up, and then they're putting it out piecemeal, and they're not getting much of a return on it, then it's an unhealthy system. Same thing anywhere along the line. If there's a clot or something like that, the money's not flowing. It's like blood. It's got to keep moving, pretty much. I know you say, oh, well, the wealthy suck it up and all this, but they also invest a lot and create a lot of jobs, this and that and everything, and they do pay a lot of taxes, and you know, so we can work on tax codes and this and everything like that. But the idea of you're just going to tax the shit out of everybody on the top and that's going to make your life better is bullshit. It is bullshit. You're just going to keep dumping, you know, like this guy, he wants to just give everybody $1,000 a month, whatever. No questions asked. And you can go spend it on dope, they spend it on whatever. And it's an endless money pit. That's it. This here, you have a substantial outlay, granted. But you're going to get way more in return because people are going to be vested in their own futures. You're going to train people for jobs and all this. And then you say, you know, also you got all these people who want a pathway to citizenship, right? Pathway to citizenship. Guess what, Holmes? You want to be on the list. And a lot of these guys, they have some construction skills, whatever. We'll train them too. You're going to work one of these jobs helping rebuild the cities, this and that. That moves you into citizenship. You keep your nose clean. You work rebuilding these cities. You know, when we get to a certain point, maybe we even offer these homes to those people. So they have a vested interest in becoming a citizen and not staying in illegal. You understand? And then we can work on what the criteria is and all that and everything for getting across the border and work visas and all this, and what to do with people who still want to operate outside, how many we let in a year, and all that types of stuff. That's a whole separate issue. Things need to be worked out. But if we're going to rebuild our cities, and then, like, you know, you're going to need schools. So a lot of these places close to them have run down industrial areas. A lot of them are vacant, they're not being used, or warehouses or retail areas. Go to Chicago lots of times and go to places, you know, and even though they're not burned out crack houses and stuff, you got a lot of run down houses on one side of the street, a lot of old buildings on the other side. You do the same thing there. You know, you find you know, where the area is, where, you know, you got a messed up industrial area close to one of these neighborhoods. Maybe you start building the houses there or whatever. Then you move people out of those other houses, knock them down, and you put up some newer houses. You're renewing your city. You're giving people a vested interest in their future. And in some of these industrial areas too, you know, you knock it down, that's where you put the new school. Then you go knock down the old school. You use that to put in houses too. Maybe you do a combination of houses and apartment things. The city planners, which, you know, you leave it totally in their hands, and they're gonna muff it up and take forever to do it, and argue over what needs to be done and all this. But you redo the sewers, the streets, all that kind of junk. Massive construction projects, the whole USA. You know, federal money goes into the cities, or if it's got to be handled by the state and not the city, you know, they can wrangle all that out. But it'll pay off in the long run. It will pay off. And then, you know, after it's all said and done, you know, you figure we're going to do this for X amount of years and rebuild so much, and we're going to put all this effort into it. And at a certain point, you know, hey, that's it. We're done with that program. And, you know, then it's up to people to sink or swim. You know, and if they go out and they screw up and they get involved in crap they shouldn't be again, and end up down on the bottom again, and the neighborhood ends up all like shit again, you can't blame us. You can't blame us. Sink or swim. Here's your chance. Learn about money. Learn about being a part of society. Have some care for your neighborhood. Have, you know. So that's my plan. A lot of little details you'd have to work out. And then when it comes to streets and sewers and all that, you know, how many live somewhere where they're constantly tearing up the street to fix a pipe or something underground and all this, or the sewer and stuff? And well, my idea is in most places, and that's why, like, when you look at the desert or something like that, you got a clean slate. You can build a whole city from scratch, design everything. So you'd have, you know, your bike paths, your motorcycle parkways, your underground ways. You know, you got all these autonomous truck things. You know, people, you'd have it in like a warehouse area, and instead of trucks coming in the city on the streets, and be underground. You know, smaller trucks, the delivery trucks, the UPS, the FedEx, all that, self-driving. You want all that kind of stuff? Well, let's get them out of the main traffic. You know, put them underground. They go downtown. They go wherever they got to go. Or, well, I guess you got to have a guy to run the packages. So you can have driving, but you can have some of that stuff self-driving. You can have the sensors, and if you need guide wires and all, it'll all be put in and stuff. And you take a lot of the delivery truck and all that kind of stuff off your city streets. But the other thing is, you'd have along the main avenues or down under them, instead of just the pipes being buried in the ground and you got to dig them up and all that, there'd be a tunnel. And at certain places, you know, pipe breaks or something, at certain places there would be access for them to drive trucks in there and stuff, and the equipment they needed. They'd go in there, yank that piece of pipe out, put a new piece of pipe in. No more all this stuff making congestion and life miserable for people up on the surface. you know, and where the bike paths and stuff like this. I'll go into all this on my next one. I just wanted to do about the houses here, but the next one will be about making a city. You know, you'd have your bike paths, and then you'd have areas where you could go up above and stuff, but they'd be like a rest area where the whole thing is open, and all malls and stuff like that, the bike path would go. Guess what? You underground, you got an underground level. You ride your bike underground on the bike parkway or bike path, whatever you want to call it, and guess what? You come up to where the shopping center is, and your Gold's Gym or your LA Fitness is, or you know, your favorite eatery. Everybody will have, all the people in the mall will have a subterranean level that you can enter into the mall to your favorite places and stuff. And this would be good in like places Arizona, Chicago, or you know, places colder climates where you can't ride your bike all year. It'd be underground. You could ride it all year and stuff. Other places you might not need to do it underground. And you could have, you know, separate roadways for motorcycles instead of, you know, them squeezing through traffic and rush hour and all this and kicking cars and giving people the finger or getting injured themselves. You know, you can have part of that underground too, you know, and they can have access and, you know, pull down to where the, you know, shopping centers and stuff are and all that. And then up above ground you'd have your monorail, your light rail or whatever, because if you're in one of those, the weather doesn't matter because it's climate controlled, you know. And right under that you could have your topside bike path even. And you know, so a lot of things we can do. So wherever possible, rebuilding these urban areas, you see if you can do all that kind of stuff. Put everything in like a tunnel underground. Can you add the underground bike paths? Can you do this? Whatever you can do. That way you don't have to come back and do it later. So what do you think? Arch Party 2024. Yes, it would take a lot of money, but guess what? They print money out of thin air anyway. And I know if you print too much, it becomes inflation. But that's because they spend it on crap that only affects a certain part of the poor population, like in defense budget and things like that. This goes into the community, would eventually circulate. Even if people sold these homes and went somewhere else, that money would go back into the economy somewhere. You see what I'm saying? And it would go back into the taxes somewhere. So what do you think? Arch Party 2024 will work on paths to citizenship, jobs training, providing benefits to police and teachers and city workers. Will give families a place to live and a vested interest in their future and their neighborhood's future. And this can all be done. The politicians know this stuff can be done. And it should be done. They talk about getting money for this and where's the money go? Where's it go? I've been out here for 30 years. I go through these cities all the time. Very seldom do I go, oh, look at that, man. They really fixed that up. We all hear the promises. And whether somebody takes this idea and uses it, or whether, God help us all, I get elected. If I get elected, this is what we're going to do. And if they try and stonewall it and all this and everything and try and corrupt it and snatch the money and not get any work done, it ain't going to fly. I'll put them in prison. I will put them in prison. And then we'll be counting on you, the people, also to vote, because I'll call them out. I will call them out in State of the Union addresses. I will call them out and say, this SOB is holding this up. And here's why. It's because, you know, XYZ, you know, he's got this lobby, or he wants to make sure his developer gets in on it and makes some money, or whatever it is. So there you go, everybody. That is my idea. Black, white, brown, pink with polka dots, whatever. You'll be able to get in on the program. We will start with the most impoverished and rundown neighborhoods in the country, and work all the specifications out and who can be available and who can't. And to people who will bitch and say, I work and I got to pay for my house, I understand you. I say the same thing about welfare. But how much money do you want to spend in taxes on housing convicts and everything decade after decade, and throwing money into welfare and all that type of stuff. Huh? How long do we want to do that? What we've been doing has not been working. State-owned housing and this and that, where the people have no vested interest, become gang-infested, crime-infested. The properties are seldom taken care of. They end up run down, dilapidated, everything else. You have to throw more money into them. You have to throw more money into welfare. These women can't find dependable men, and this and that. It's always some guy with the same spiel who ain't got shit going for him. Well, the serious guys out there who want to work, who want to have families, who maybe don't mind having a woman who's already got other kids or whatever, guess what? He's a catch now. You put a dent in the fatherless children out there. Do you see what I'm saying? You can have families instead of broken families. It's a win-win. It might take several years for it to be a win-win, or 10 years for it to be a win-win. But I think it'll work. Let me know what you think. Wish you all the best out there. God bless. And the next one will be, like I say, environmental stuff. So we'll get to that and some of the things there that maybe people haven't thought about. And that one, the title of that one's going to be Cow Farts. So look for that one. Anyway, what do you think? Leave a comment if you want. Arts Party 2024. No campaign funds, no volunteers, no rallies, no nothing. I don't want your money. I'm not looking to get monetized by YouTube or anything like that. Just my ideas. You like them, you write me in as candidate, and when time comes, I'll file the paperwork when I have to look all that stuff up when 2024 election process starts. So what do you think? All right. Wish you all the best out there. Adios.